And good afternoon, everyone. Today we have a very special guest for you. This is extremely exciting because this man is not only an incredible man, an incredible scientist, but also has discovered something that I would love to share with you. Something that I heard about some years ago. I've been following this man for some time, and the results have been absolutely phenomenal. So, welcome to Dr. ETV. Today I am joined by none other than the incredible Dr. Keith Motes. How are you today, my man?
I'm really good, really excited about this sharing of information and this discussion with you and everyone that you connect with. So, thank you for having me on. It's such a pleasure and honor to be here right now. Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. One thing I've always loved so much about you is that not only are you an actual quantum physicist, I mean, a real hardcore scientist, but you are also a really conscious, loving, and deeply spiritual man. And so it's really an honor for me to
Oh,
introduce you to our people because a lot of our tribe, a lot of our quantum family are very similar. We understand the science, we enjoy the science, we follow the science, but we also live a grounded, open-hearted, what we perceive to be spiritual lives. So you represent that so beautifully. I want to start by asking the first question, Dr. Keith. What is shaking medicine?
so shaking medicine for me is it's basically the embodiment of therapeutic tremoring, which has evolved within all of us humans and most other animals, really, as a way to let go of stress, anxiety, aches, pains, suppressed emotions, trauma. And it's an extremely liberating and self-empowering thing we can do for our well-being and our health. And you know, it's very much been suppressed in our culture, and it's been my mission the last 5 years or so to help bring it back and remind people of this beautiful art and science of shaking medicine. And that's what I like to call it. One name is shaking medicine, and I've been sharing it under the Shaking Medicine Foundation for quite some time now, and it's really been whew, a really beautiful journey so far, coming out of the science and sort of letting that part of my life rest a little bit and going into this embodiment art and bringing this
Mm,
modality to the world. Yeah.
amazing. So checking in that you can hear me there. Yeah, awesome. This is really exciting because I understand for me as a physician, when I teach, healing modalities to our patients and our students at the live events and online trainings, etc., I always say we have issues in the tissues. And what I mean by that is there's so much of the traumas from, not just early childhood, imprint period 1 to 7 years of age, but also traumas that we've experienced in the past. It gets stuck in the body. And I remember
Hmm.
we had this conversation once, and you told obviously many of our listeners and viewers know that everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. So we're having that conversation today as to, okay, well, what are these issues in the tissues? Okay, what does that mean to have a dis-ease in the body? And when you're talking about how it works, I'm really interested because you shared once with me that it was you said when animals are in the wild and they're threatened and something happens, they actually do shake it off. But us as humans, we store the trauma in the tissues and in the nervous system. So can you give us, can you explain to our viewers how does actually then shaking medicine work?
Yeah, so I'm really glad you said that, and I agree. It's so much stores in the tissues or the body, and the shaking medicine is really a body-based somatic modality for allowing us to shake out these issues in the tissues, the often lifelong traumas and stresses and anxieties we stored within our mind body complex. And
Mm,
so that essentially how it works is by learning, or I like to say rather remembering how to let go of effort and control and allow this mechanism to unravel us, to start to shake us out. And that's usually done by relaxing and moving really slowly and mindfully and such until we find a point where our body starts to get some spontaneous motions. I can tune into it really easily, having done it so many times now. But yeah, so essentially, as our body accesses this, as we move into feeling, as we come out of the logical thinking mind, our body really, through evolution, knows what to do to heal us and to move the stagnant energy that's blocking our flow in life, blocking the channels, the meridians, or the nadis, however you might want to refer to them. And in such a case, then everything starts to move. We might start, the deeper we go into it, the more involuntary it can get, and so it can get quite cathartic, and that release. You don't need to know what's going to happen, and that's the beauty of it. Anything might arise, stuff that's been frozen inside of us for so long. Maybe back to our childhood or even our birth, things can start to come out, and you might be surprised of what comes through. Often, we don't even need to experience any stories or thoughts because it's a body-based thing. So often we move these stagnant energies without having to relive any story in our head. That being said, sometimes they do arise and we're like, oh, this interesting story from when I was a child or whenever it might have been. And that may be a signal that what you're releasing is connected to that, but it's not necessarily important to link it. It's just you trust that the vibration is literally dissipating away the stuck energy that's not serving us. And by doing so, we move further into rest and digest, relaxed states of our nervous system where our bodily functions can work more efficiently, our immune system works better, our digestion, and we will breathe deeper, more efficiently, so we'll have more energy to do the things we love to do in life. And so, yeah, scientifically speaking, we like to call this neurogenic therapeutic tremoring. And it's this, yeah, so it's very deeply related to the nervous system, the moving into parasympathetic rest and digest states. And yeah, it's yeah, it's definitely been a very powerful thing for me to embody. And what's very different about it to most other things we might practice out there is that most things we do in life tend to be learning to control in some form or another, whether that's yoga asana, going to the
Hmm.
gym, and this is really about letting go of that and letting go of control and letting the body do its thing, really. And that's really what's, I think, is super unique compared to almost everything else out there.
I love that, and I can recall many times where I've had traumas or uncomfortable experiences where the body just goes, and we have this freeze response or this reaction of wow, this is dangerous or this is scary or whatever that might be, and then we find ourselves holding that in the tissue, and we find ourselves changing our body postures and making sure to make sure that we're safe. But the truth is that we are safe, but we haven't gotten this trauma out of the nervous system. So as I
Mm.
understand, you've got the modality. Yeah, I mean, you're a quantum physicist by trade. You've been researching the different things for such a long time. Just amazing to see what the work that you've done. And now you're teaching people this shaking medicine. So I could imagine, okay, I know for me, I want to, and we've spoken about this many times. I always love doing the work for me. So, and introducing this kind of work to our students and our patients, because this really gives them the opportunity to try something new. Because we know that so much of what's been done before doesn't work, right? And so here we are talking about a science-based, tremor-based, if you want to call it, the tremoring of the body, a somatic release. Oh gosh, how many of us actually need to release these things that we're holding on
Mm.
to? So when we talk about, and you talked about the two parts of the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system of fight or flight, or the parasympathetic nervous system of, call it rest and digest, call it fear and love, contraction, expansion, stress and presence.
Mm.
And you mentioned the nadis and how energy flows through the nadis or the meridians, depending on, looking at Chinese or the Indian philosophies of these energy channels. What I'm really interested in asking you today is that what is the real science behind shaking medicine? When you do this, what is it that actually happens?
Well, our body hits when we tune into this response of tremoring, our body, it basically signals to our nervous system that we can let go of what we're holding on to, and
Mm.
the tremoring starts to relax the whole body mind complex. It starts to release, and I like to think of it in a vibrational manner where like tension stored in our body, it's like tension stored on a tight string, right? If it's tight and you pluck it, it'll just go crazy. And that's kind of how our muscles and our tissues are often, if we're rigid and tight, it's like it's just really aching for some shaking. And so the shaking kind of, it starts to relax, and then
Oh,
when we
stop it. Aching for some shaking. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah. And so yeah, when we relax these tight muscles, it's like it wants to just kind of, it dissipates that stored energy until it's a
Yeah,
relaxed string, and it's in its equilibrium and harmony. It's in its, it's using least possible effort and control. It's efficient in the way it utilizes energy, and that's the
yeah.
whole body mind body complex. Um,
I
and yeah,
thought about a little
really,
while ago.
yeah. What's
I
that?
had the thought a little while ago, and it made me think of you because I felt like I thought 3, 4 days, there was lots of stress, lots of things happen. I think we all can relate to this. Suddenly something happens with work, something happens with the family, something happens with whatever else. And then you're like, you feel this stress, this frantic kind of masculine based, dominant, up there kind of energy where you're just like, you're not feeling grounded. You got, heart palpitations, or you're just feeling stressed, right? And I thought to myself, I just needed to go and hit a boxing bag. I need to do yoga. I want to just get this energy moving. And then I thought of you, because that's exactly what happens when we experience trauma. We hold it in the nervous system. And because we're supposed to be so decent and so nice and not scream and not be angry, and we're supposed to fit in this little box, then we just shut
Mm.
ourselves down and we hold the traumas. And then I thought of you, and I just started moving, and I just went, it looks a bit silly. I'm definitely not going to be doing it right, but it was something like, and I just felt this, as you mentioned, this cathartic release, and I
Mhm.
just did it. And we do this in our breathwork sessions, right? So we do a cathartic release in the breathwork, and even before we get to it, some of the sounds and some of the movements that are autonomous. The people are flopping on the floor and their hands shaking over here, and they're making weird sounds because these things are coming out. And now you've discovered a scientific method to teach this, and I'm really interested. What can a person expect? Let's say that they're like many of us. Okay, so you got a job or a business of your own. Life sometimes gets stressful. You might have kids. You're supposed to go to the gym or exercise. You've forgotten that. It's been a couple of months. You're feeling stressed. You're feeling run down, and now they have the tension, this trauma, this fear, these issues in the tissues. They come to your shaking medicine seminars. They do the work with you. What can a person, one, experience throughout the shaking medicine experience with you? And two, what can they expect afterwards?
Awesome question, and really, in some ways, we can expect the unexpected, and definitely what you're saying, the cathartic uh, um, actions of the body. It's really, this is the ideal sort of state where whatever is suppressed in us comes out, and so you can it can be through sound, it can be through movement and shaking. Sometimes it's like it manifests in like waves and in the body. And sometimes it just manifests, like it just moves us into deep meditative stillness. And what's beautiful is it naturally cycles through cathartic, ecstatic movement to deep meditative stillness. And the Kalahari Bushmen, which is the oldest culture on earth that's been doing this, they talk about this a lot. And in a journey with me, usually I'll give a sort of average depiction of what I've seen after of sharing this with thousands of people now. Most, let's say your average sort of person would come to a Shaking medicine workshop never having even heard about therapeutic tremoring before, and usually it'll take maybe a few shapes for them to maybe one or two or three shapes to kind of start being like, oh yeah, okay, I'm getting a little bitty shake, and usually it's quite subtle at first. It might be pretty small, and so it's like I'm inviting people to tune into that and allow that to move through them, and then eventually that'll start moving more and more, eventually getting through sort of some of the major parts of the body, like the legs and the hips and the core often is a good focus area for a beginner. And these are big muscle group areas that are usually easier to start off the tremor mechanism. Eventually, we can tune the whole body into tremoring from your toes to your fingers, your face, your tongue, everything. But generally, we'll focus on big core muscle group areas. And so by the end, I like to usually start up, standing, get the legs going, and then tremor on all fours, maybe the belly, and then eventually hit the back where we can really just deeply relax. And by then, usually we're all tremoring pretty well, and we can get some nice deep tremors moving through our whole body. And from there, it's like we're able to let go of effort and control on a even more deep level than we have been so far. And that's when like the deep psoas muscles might start letting go and releasing. And usually we end in sort of a meditative stillness to let everything integrate. And most, I'd say 95% of the people experience a good level of tremors in their first class, which is a it you'd be surprised at how many people's lives are just transformed after one class having this realization of, oh my god, I can allow my body to tremor, and it's so efficient at letting go of trauma and stress and anxiety. I mean, it's evolved within us over millions of years. It's how we're meant to do it, or at least one way. I don't want to say it's the only way, but it's definitely
This is
one
good.
powerful way.
Let's go there, bro, because this I
Yeah.
totally get this and I totally agree with this. So an analogy you mentioned, okay, so let's say you have the antelope and the lion. The antelope, is out. She's grazing, she's doing her thing, walking around, and then she's keeping an eye out to make sure there's no danger. It's a similar nervous system to us. You're supposed to be in a beautiful state the majority of the time. But we have this sympathetic nervous system that's constantly on dial through. The hindbrain is looking for fear, doubt, complication, boredom, discomfort, and danger.
Hmm.
So we're going through life, and there's a bit of stress at work, bit of stress in a relationship, whatever. And what I saw in the animal kingdom and from previous conversations is that when then the lion, starts running after the antelope, take that as a common example. When you are stressed in your life, traumas unresolved in your life, the animal then, the antelope, would run away from the danger. If something happened, building blew up, we would run away from danger. And then there's the antelope gets away from danger, it would shake. And so I remember, from having this conversation with you before, it would then stop. And if you look at videos of animals in the wild having experienced this, you'd see that they would kind of shake it off, and then they would keep on walking. But us humans, we've forgotten to do that. So you've mentioned this has been evolving for thousands, millions of years through evolution, but it seems somehow we've forgotten to do that, and we started storing it up. Is that about accurate? What's your opinion on that hypothesis?
That's very accurate, and from what I've gathered over the years of studying and doing this is that it's, I mean, I don't wanna go into too much on this, but it seems to be suppressed over thousands of years due to highly religious reasons and government, control reasons. Basically,
Yeah.
it's we depict it as weird in our culture, which I think is very stupid, but it's kind of like it's been depicted as something that's there is like you're possessed by the devil if you're going into religious aspects. And I had someone actually put a comment on a Facebook post. No, sorry, it was an email that I sent. He signed up to my newsletter, and then he replied like, "Unsubscribe me now. This is devil worship." And I'm like that old story. It's like it's therapeutic trimming. And that's the
Hmm.
story we've been conditioned with, it's not his fault he thinks that, it's literally been ingrained
Condition.
within us, conditioned,
Yeah.
and back in the witch times, you might say, for doing this sort of stuff, being possessed by the devil, you'd get stoned to death or banned from society or whatever.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so these are some of the reasons I think that it's been banned. This is liberating, and it brings us towards enlightenment and empowerment, and people who are trying to control and suppress us don't want us to be that, right? Because then they can't control us and suppress us so easily and take advantage of us. So
Yeah.
that's what I've gathered over the
We get,
years.
totally. And definitely in societies, you stand at the bus stop. If one person's kind of like dancing or having fun, you'd either think that he or she's crazy or drunk, because we've stopped expressing ourselves. So we've started shrinking instead of shining. So here comes
Hmm.
this, method that you've developed over these years to really do so in a sacred space. Very similar to our events as well. We sit through grief, fear, sadness, anger, illusion, desperation. We sit through all of these lower vibratory emotions, and we get to heal them and integrate them back into the being. And you have an awesome modality as well. Keith, where do people go to find out more about shaking medicine? I know you've got some, and the reason why I want to share this work with people is because I love it. I know the science. I know it works. I've seen you for a long time. You do authentic, amazing work, and I would really love for our students and our patients to have an opportunity to gain access to your care, because that's what I know that you do. You care a lot. So where do people find out
Mm.
more about shaking medicine?
Well, I've made it really easy. Shakingmedicine.com. I own that domain, and I've set it up as a non-for-profit foundation. So most of the funds go back into reaching more people with this medicine. And there's so much on offer now at shakingmedicine.com, from pre-recorded classes. There's even a free class, intro class there you can grab. I just recently started weekly live online classes. We have different teachers sharing through
Right.
all the time zones now, and I've been running live online 6-week shaking medicine teacher trainings, which have been really successful. I'm starting one this coming Sunday, actually. There's still some spots for that, and there's another one starting in January, and I'm probably going to do a few next year, a few more next year as well. And
Mm.
yeah, there's going to be more coming. So I'm constantly putting my love and energy, and like you say, I do care. Everyone who signs up, I'm very caring to respond to messages. I have regular Zoom chats with people all over the world who graduated from my teacher training years ago. Like, we're still in touch, and I actually encourage everyone to, yeah, just to keep it alive and fresh. So I do care about this a lot, and
Mm.
it's
Do you do it
been quite.
online? Is it possible to attend this online?
Yeah, so actually most of our offerings are online at the moment due to the COVID stuff, and also because it's quite a niche thing. I find that the online just has more reach, like the whole world really. So
Totally
it's
get
been
it. And
really,
the reason why I
yeah.
wanted to ask is because we've got a lot of our community, in Australia and some of the, across the borders. But honestly, a lot of people are still stuck. A lot of people are still Victoria, New South Wales, difficult times, WA. So it's really amazing that you're doing this online. Like, if you're sitting at home, if you're holding on to stress, if something's going on, you feel like you need a release, go to shakingmedicine.com, connect with Dr. Keith. This is a hardcore quantum physicist, intellectual super scientist turned, what do I want to call you? Medicine alchemist. And this is what I
Spiritual.
call medicine. Yeah, this is what I call medicine. Real medicine is, firstly, do no harm. Secondly, understand that the body has an innate capacity to heal itself. This is part of the quantum field, or the ether, the part of us that is pure consciousness. And when we get to release the stuff that's holding us down and step into the power of who we are through natural, holistic, yes, yet scientifically backed approaches, I think this is really the future of medicine. Any final words from you, Dr. Keith? We've got your link there. Make sure we, guys, if you're watching, if you have any questions for Dr. Keith, pop it in the chat section. And before we ask everyone to click the link and pop in there and have a look at your work, do you have any final words for humanity right now? What would you say, brother man?
Well, I'd say, I love you and I wish you the best in your journey and healing. And feel free to reach out on me, shakingmedicine.com. I have, you can schedule a free call with me if you'd like. There's links there to do that through this beautiful software called Calendly. And I'm so happy to connect via message or personal chat. And yeah, sending lots of love.
Thank you. That's something that the world could certainly do with some more of right now. Dr. Keith, it's been a privilege and a pleasure, brother. I'm really excited to click on that link myself and see when I can attend and do some more shaking with you, my friend. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the work that you're doing for humanity. And thank you for your beautiful heart.
Thank you, Dr. Espen. It's a pleasure.
See you soon, buddy.
Yeah, indeed. Have a great day.